Welcome to the pre-application webinar for prospective applicants for the Comprehensive Centers Program 2026 Grant Competition for the National Center. This webinar will focus solely on information specific to the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Competition for the National Center. For pre-application webinars for other 2026 grant competitions under this program, please visit the Comprehensive Centers Program website at ed.gov. In addition, for guidance on the application instructions and submission procedures applicable for the National Center and for other centers under the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Competition, please visit the Comprehensive Centers Program website at ed.gov. My name is Dr. Michelle Daly. I serve as the group leader for the Comprehensive Centers Program in the Office of Program and Grantee Support Services at the U.S. Department of Education. I will be joined today by my colleague, Erin Kels, who serves as the competition manager for the 2026 grant competition for the Comprehensive Centers Program. The department is accepting applications through June 30th, 2026 for proposals to establish comprehensive centers under separate application notices and instructions through this competition. The department may make awards for a national center, regional comprehensive centers, and 3 types of content centers. One emerging needs center, focusing on projects that are designed to strengthen core instruction through creating and supporting principals and other school leaders in implementing strategic staffing models. And at least 2 field-initiated centers, with preference given to applicants submitting proposals to establish centers focused on evidence-based literacy instruction or strengthening core instruction through improving mathematics instructions, and 1 national center on improving literacy for students with disabilities. Each center type has its own absolute priority, competitive preference priorities, and application requirements. Because these are very distinct priorities, applicants must review the relevant application notice and instruction, or ANI, for each center type they are interested in. If an applicant intends to compete for more than 1 comprehensive center, whether a national center, regional center, or content center, they must submit a standalone application for each center they wish to operate. Applicants can review recorded webinars reviewing the specific requirements for each center type on the U.S. Department of Education YouTube channel. This webinar will provide information for prospective applicants for the National Comprehensive Center Award. During the webinar, we will review details for the application notice and instructions, or the ANI, including priorities, program, application and eligibility requirements, selection criteria, and definition that apply to the application for the National Center. Next, we will go over submission procedures and application review, and finally, we will close out with a reminder of the competition resources available to applicants. As a result of reviewing this webinar, applicants should be able to identify the application requirements and expectations outlined in the application notice and instruction, or ANI, including, for example, the priorities, application requirements, due dates, and review process for the 2026 National Center Grant Competition. Under the process of submitting the grant application on grants.gov, including how the online submission platforms, submission methods, and required forms. The funding opportunity associated with this competition is ED Grants, or Ed Grants -050-826-011. The assistance listing number, or ALN, for this program is 84.283B. The funding opportunity listing on grants.gov contains the full application notice and instruction for this competition. The application notice and instructions serve as the official announcement for this competition. Applicants should not rely solely on this webinar for information and guidance, should only use this presentation as a resource in conjunction with the official instructions in the ANI. Before applying for this grant, interested applicants should thoroughly read the ANI, which includes the application package instruction available on grants.gov. Applicants may also review resources available on the applicant information page on the Comprehensive Centers Program website on ed.gov. To support clarity throughout the presentation, this slide presents a list of acronyms that is referenced throughout this webinar. Eligibility for this program is established in Section 203B of the Education Technical Assistance Act, or ETAA. Applicants eligible for this grant include research organizations, institutions, agencies, institutions of higher education, or partnerships among such entities or individuals with a demonstrated ability or capacity to carry out the activities described in the ANI. A group of eligible entities may also apply as a consortium in accordance with the requirements in 34 CFR Part 75, Subpart C. The Comprehensive Center Network, or CC Network, is comprised of three types of comprehensive centers, including the National Comprehensive Center, or the National Center, Regional Comprehensive Centers, or Regional Centers, and Content Centers. Together, these centers form a network to provide capacity building support to educational agencies in school that improve instruction, expand opportunities, and close achievement gaps for all students, especially those with the greatest needs. The National Center coordinates client-driven technical assistance to assist state educational agencies, regional educational agencies, tribal education agencies, and local education agencies' priorities related to evidence use and implementation of evidence-based practices to improve student outcomes nationally. Each regional center provides intensive, client-driven technical assistance aligned to state and local priorities and needs. These centers help states select, implement, and sustain evidence-based programs, practices, and interventions in support of improved educator practice and student outcomes, especially in math and literacy. Content centers provide technical assistance on a specific topic or of national or regional importance, reflected across state and local needs and priorities. All centers are expected to coordinate services, consult each other in providing services to clients. The National Center helps facilitate collaboration across centers and support dissemination of products, resources, and information from the CC Network through the CC Network website, newsletters, and media. The National Center's primary role is to coordinate services to support both client needs and the broader functioning of the CC Network. The center leads coordination across the entire CC Network to promote overall alignment and coherence of services and reduce burden and barriers to services for states and beneficiaries. It ensures that technical assistance provided by centers reflect state-driven priorities and support the efficient use of program resources, including efforts to minimize duplication of both the CC Network and other department-funded technical assistance efforts. The National Center serves as a concierge level point of entry to department technical assistance for states and other CC clients. Its role includes maintaining a cadre of subject matter experts with a broad range of expertise, identifying emerging high-level problems, and supporting regional centers and RELs, which is Regional Educational Laboratories, in developing, refining, and implementing multi-year state learning agendas. This collaborative effort of the National Center, the regional centers, and the RELs strengthens SEA's capacity for strategic decision-making related to education investments through the development and use of learning agendas. The National Center roles also include supporting the coordination and refinement of processes, tools, and resources to support the comprehensive centers and the RELs. Funded by the Institute of Education Sciences, the nation's 10 regional education laboratories, or RELs, partner with educators and policymakers nationwide. REL work is change-oriented, supporting meaningful local, regional, and state decisions about education policies, their program practices designed to improve learner outcomes. RELs collaborate with State Department of Education's school district leaders and classroom educators and other education stakeholders to address their most pressing problems of education policy and practice. Their work includes a high-quality applied research, training, coaching, and technical support to educators and policymakers, and sharing information about what works to improve learner outcomes. The National Center works with the RELs to support broad coordination across their work with centers to identify opportunities to share and disseminate information from REL projects, as well as enhancing the reach of the evidence-based REL resources, including practice guides.
What are learning agendas? A learning agenda is a strategic multi-year plan to identify and address priority policy questions using data and evidence. Learning agendas serve to identify high priority questions that matter most for improving programs, policies, and outcomes, guide research, evaluation, and data collection activities in a coordinated way, support evidence-based decision-making to improve effectiveness and efficiency, promote transparency and collaboration through engagement with internal and external stakeholders, and state learning agendas document an individual state's most pressing problems of education policy and practice, and the researchable questions that, if answered, could dramatically accelerate states' progress towards addressing those problems. In 2026, the National Comprehensive Center, in partnership with the regional centers and the RELs, invited SEAs in each region to participate in a pilot of a standardized learning agenda development process. The goal to develop a process complete with templates, protocols, and other supporting resources that all SEAs can use as they develop their own learning agendas. A learning agenda complements a SEA's strategic plan and should be developed in tandem to ensure alignment. A strategic plan supports the vision and mission of the organization and typically describes agency priorities, strategies, and milestones. Learning agendas help states go deeper to align their priorities across programs and initiatives and use data and evidence more strategically to make sure that their strategies result in better outcomes. The department envisions a partnership between SEAs, regional centers, and RELs to support SEAs in their development and implementation of learning agendas, and to in turn align REL and CC plans with learning agenda priorities. The department expects the National Center to support RELs and regional centers in working with their states to develop learning agendas, such as by producing and adapting tools and resources, providing additional expertise as needed, sharing examples of model of learning agendas, or convening states across regions as needed. Through the State Learning Agenda Initiative, the department is funding the National Center to develop learning agenda tools and processes, tested and refined with the 8 pilot states that all centers and RELs will be able to use to support states in this activity starting in 2027. When states set their own agendas, RELs and comprehensive centers can more effectively work together to advance work driven by state-defined priorities and promote coherence and strategic use of program resources. We will now review the funding opportunity description for this competition, starting with the priorities for applications for the National Center. The National Center competition includes 1 absolute priority and 1 competitive preference priority. The absolute priority used in this competition is National Center. The competitive preference priority used is returning education to the states. Applicants should review the ANI for specific information on how to meet the absolute and competitive preference priorities for the National Center. We will begin by reviewing the absolute priority for the National Center. To meet the absolute priority, applicants must submit projects that propose to establish and operate a national center to coordinate client-driven technical assistance to address SEA, REA, TEA, and LEA priorities related to evidence use and implementation of evidence-based practices to improve student outcomes. A significant role of the National Center is to coordinate service across the CC program. The National Center serves as the lead coordinator across the CC network to ensure strategic alignment and foster coherence of services provided by the network to reduce burdens and barriers to serve for the states and beneficiaries. In addition, the center supports coordination, knowledge sharing, and facilitates connection across centers where multiple provider engagement is needed and enables efficient use of program resources. Some of the key coordination activities of the National Center are to conduct and share annual analyses of high leverage problems identified by states and to develop tools and resources that support delivery of high quality, high impact, differentiated technical assistance and capacity building services across the CC network, including common tools and resources to align capacity assessment, tracking, and reporting, support for state learning agendas, and quality assurance processes. The National Center must procure expertise to provide high quality, high impact technical assistance to address common multi-state needs through targeted and universal capacity building services through avenues such as state-to-state learning communities. To ensure national priorities are addressed, the National Center must design these services to improve educational opportunities, educator practice, and student outcomes to address national needs that are not addressed by other federal investments. These needs should be identified with the Center's advisory board and include priorities that are identified through analyzing high leverage problems across the entire CC network, established publicly to convey client needs, such as those identified in state learning agendas or strategic plans, or are common high leverage problems identified in regional center service plans. Additionally, the center might provide services to address common findings from department monitoring reports or audit findings, implementation challenges faced by states and LEAs related to teaching, learning, and development, including the needs of schools designed for improvement, improving core academic instruction, and emerging education topics of national importance. The National Center Concierge Service can provide a voluntary point of entry to streamline access for any state or other client seeking federal technical assistance on a particular issue or high leverage problem. In this capacity, the National Center can make potential clients aware of their options and facilitate access to available resources across the federal technical assistance ecosystem. To accomplish this, the National Center will design and implement a system to review inquiries and requests for technical assistance. The center will then help identify technical assistance providers with relevant expertise to address client needs. These providers may include regional centers, content centers within the CC network, and other department technical assistance providers or vetted subject matter experts from a registry maintained by the National Center to ensure clients know their options and are able to select providers that best meet their needs. The National Center can also coordinate and connect with the identified technical assistance providers to improve access to services.
There is one competitive preference priority for this competition for the National Center. The CPP for the National Center is returning education to the states. In this competition, the department will award additional CPP points to the National Center applicant based on the number of states they have identified, designate, or endorse the applicant's proposal as demonstrated by a formal letter of designation or endorsement signed by the governor or chief state school officer from a state for projects or proposals that will be carried out by one of more of the entities listed on this slide. The suggested number of points received will be based on the number of endorsements from states. To meet the requirements of entities identified, designated, or endorsed by a governor or chief state education official for purposes of implementing the project or proposal, applicants must include specific evidence that a governor or chief state official has identified, designated, or endorsed the project. An example that can meet this requirement is a letter of endorsement on official letterhead from the governor or chief state education official included with the application at the time of submission. Please note, if the department is unable to clearly identify an identification, designation, or endorsement by a governor or chief state education official, the department may determine the application does not meet the competitive preference priority. To meet the criterion for the entities identified, designated, or endorsed by a governor or chief state education official, applicants must include specific evidence that a governor or chief state official has identified, designated, or endorsed a project. Specific evidence could include a letter of endorsement on official letterhead signed by the governor or chief state education official and should be included in the application at the time of submission. The letter should clearly indicate the state's support for the project or the proposal. States may choose to endorse more than one proposal for any given competition that they believe would meet their needs. Applicants need at least one state endorsement to qualify under this criteria. Please note again that if the department is unable to clearly identify an identification, designation, or endorsement by governor or chief state education official, the department may determine that the application does not meet a CPP under this criteria and points would not be awarded. Applicants should carefully review the ANI for detailed guidance on meeting all absolute and competitive preference priority requirements. An applicant for the National Center may receive a maximum of 10 additional points under this competitive preference priority returning education to the states. The suggested points that an applicant may receive will be based on the number of states that have been identified, designated, or endorsed the applicant proposal, as demonstrated by the formal letter of designation or endorsement signed by the governor or chief state school officer. The department provided a scoring rubric in the ANI that details the suggested number of points based on the number of endorsements. As a reminder, applicants should review the ANI carefully for specific guidance on how to meet the requirements for both the absolute and the competitive preference priority for this competition.
Next, we will review the program requirements that apply to the National Center Grant Competition. The program requirements are established in the Comprehensive Centers Program Final Priorities, Requirements, and Definitions published in the Federal Register on May 8, 2026. Program requirements generally describe requirements of grantees under this program. They are addressed after grant award and are further detailed in a cooperative agreement between the grantee and the department. There are 14 program requirements for the National Center, which include 5 general requirements for all centers and 9 additional program requirements for the National Center. Applicants should be aware of the program requirements and should consider how they would meet these requirements if they receive a National Center grant. The first 5 program requirements apply to all centers. For these program requirements for all centers, grantees must develop annual service plans that clearly reflect state-identified needs and priorities. Grantees will be required to demonstrate how their services reflect state-identified needs and leadership priorities for assistance, and how the plans prioritize students and communities with the greatest needs, consistent with the requirements in the ETAA. Plans must include high leverage problems, client needs, proposed capacity building services, short, mid, and long-term outcomes, responsible personnel, key partners, milestones, outputs, dissemination approaches, and fidelity measures. For definitions of these terms, please see the definitions section of the ANI. Centers must design and implement capacity building services that are streamlined, responsive, and tailored to specific state and local needs. Centers must develop these services in partnership with beneficiaries to make sure they respond to the needs and produce desired outcomes. 3, centers must demonstrate that clients were actively engaged in defining proposed services. Centers must secure and document client and partner commitment to the annual service plans. 4, centers must implement a performance management and evaluation system that integrates continuous improvement to promote effective achievement of client outcomes. High-quality performance management systems will include methods to measure and monitor progress towards agreed-upon outcomes, outputs, and milestones, and to measure the reach, use, and impact of the services being delivered to ensure capacity-building services are implemented as intended, reaching the intended clients and recipients, and achieving desired results. Centers must also periodically assess client satisfaction as a leading indicator and monitor changes in client context that may impact project success. All important factors in monitoring fidelity of implementation. Additionally, the grantee must also report on defined program performance measures, which are listed in the ANI. 5, finally, all centers are required to participate in the department's national evaluation of the Comprehensive Centers Program, which is required under Section 204 of the ETAA. In addition to the program requirements for all centers, there are 5 additional program requirements for the National Center. First, the National Center must 6, include projects to develop CC network tools, resources, services, and processes in its service plan to align capacity assessment, tracking, and reporting to deliver services that effectively build client capacity for evidence and implementation of evidence-based practices to improve student outcomes. 7, coordinate and refine processes, tools, and resources to support regional centers and RELs to work with the individual states to develop learning agendas. Producing and adapting tools and resources, providing additional expertise as needed, sharing examples of model learning agendas, or convening the states across the regions as needed. The next program requirements for the National Center emphasizes 8, designing and implementing a coordinated process to identify emerging high leverage problems that could be effectively addressed through client-driven annual service plans. Through this approach, the center would conduct and publish an annual synthesis of common high priority needs across states, which would include input from other sources, including the center's advisory board, to identify the collective needs that may require cross-regional peer learning and capacity building at the national level. The center would also design effective services to meet demonstrated collective needs with tangible, achievable capacity building outcomes resulting from the beneficiary. These services would include targeted and universal capacity building services where states and other beneficiaries can learn from each other and subject matter experts. Universal capacity building services means assistance and information provided to independent users through their own initiative, involving minimal interaction with National Center staff. Targeted capacity building means assistance based on common needs among multiple clients and recipients and not extensively individualized. It involves an established relationship between the recipients, the National Center or Content Center, and regional centers as appropriate. The next program requirements for the National Center require that the center must 10. Solicit, vet, and provide access to an expansive and comprehensive cadre of national subject matter experts to support the CCs. This national cadre of subject matter experts would include a broad range of expertise from providers with proven outcomes working with CC clients and sufficient information to help clients make informed selections among potential providers. This information should be made available to clients and include, for example, client reviews, examples of expert work, and transparency in service pricing. The cadre should reflect client output and be continually expanded to include new providers as needed to meet client needs. 11. Design and implement a concierge-style service to intake and assess inquiries and voluntary technical assistance requests from CC clients. The department intends that the National Center Concierge Service can provide a voluntary point of entry for any state or other client seeking federal technical assistance on a particular issue or high leverage problem. In this capacity, the National Center can make potential clients aware of their options for assistance and facilitate access to available resources across the federal technical assistance ecosystem. The next program requirements for the National Center are 12, design, operate, and maintain communications and dissemination vehicles for the CC network, including the CC network website. 13, create peer learning opportunities for CC network staff to address implementation changes and scale effective best practices to improve service delivery across the CC network. Finally, the complex relationship-driven nature of comprehensive center work requires dedication, leadership with the capacity to effectively manage all aspects of the center's operation. National Center grantees must, 14, ensure that the project director can manage all aspects of the center and is either staffed at 1 FTE or the project director and co-director or deputies are staffed at a minimum of 1.5 FTE collectively. This includes managing significant complexity to coordinate across the entire CC network with national partners and the department. Applicants for the National Center must demonstrate that they have dedicated the minimum FTE for their leadership team, which can be met by one project director or by establishing a leadership team that includes co-directors or a project director and deputies with at least a collective FTE as indicated in the program requirements. Applicants must describe the proposed leadership structure for the center and how the organizational leadership will effectively manage the project according to the needs of the program. As a reminder, program requirements must be met by grantees post-award. Applicants should consider how they will meet these requirements if awarded a National Center grant. Please refer to the ANI and comprehensive text of the program requirements for national centers.
We will now review the application requirements, which are requirements that applicants must address in their application for a National Center Grant Award. The applicant requirements are established in the Comprehensive Centers Program Final Priorities, Requirements, and Definitions, published in the Federal Register on May 8, 2026. Application requirements describe the requirements of applicants under this program. They must be addressed in the grant application. There are 7 general application requirements that apply to all centers, and 3 application requirements only apply to national centers. Applicants should clearly review the application requirements in the ANI and make sure the application narrative addresses each application requirements. The application requirements correspond to the selection criteria that will be used to evaluate your proposal. There are 7 general application requirements for all centers. Again, please refer to the ANI for the comprehensive description of each application requirement. Each applicant applying for a National Center grant must present an approach to the proposed project for operating the comprehensive center, including a logic model, Describe the proposed process to identify in partnership with the CC client the most urgent education challenges to be addressed. Describe the proposed approach to measure and monitor client progress or success. Demonstrate expertise in providing highly relevant and highly effective technical assistance, and provide a budget that includes a narrative explanation of estimated costs for intensive, targeted, and universal capacity building services. Applicants must also describe the proposed leadership structure for the center and how the organizational leadership will effectively manage the project accordingly to the needs of the program. As a reminder, this is the applicant's opportunity to discuss how they will meet the full-time equivalency requirement for the project leadership. Include in the budget line for an annual set-aside of 5% of the grant amount to support emerging needs. Applicants can incorporate this 5% set-aside in any way they choose and should describe this approach in the budget narrative. There are 3 additional application requirements for the National Center. An applicant for the National Center must propose an approach to leading coordination and collaboration of the entire CC network, including how the center will fulfill the requirements to serve as a concierge level point of entry to department technical assistance for states and other CC clients, develop and administer access to a national cadre of subject matter experts with a broad range of expertise, demonstrated impact, and proven satisfaction serving of CC clients, coordinate and refine processes, tools, and resources to support regional centers and RELs for state learning agendas, and identify emerging high-level problems that could be effectively addressed through client-driven annual service plans. Applicants for the National Center must also demonstrate a high level of expertise in leading communication and digital engagement strategies. The approach includes creating a robust web and social media presence, overseeing customer relations management, providing editorial support to regional and content centers, and utilizing web analytics and other tools to improve content engagement. Propose an approach to procuring expertise to provide targeted and universal capacity building services to support beneficiaries in addressing common high-level leverage problems. This includes how the applicant intends to collaborate with regional centers to identify potential beneficiaries and to maximize how many SCAs, REAs, TEAs, and LEAs it has the capacity to reach with available services.
Now that we've reviewed the requirements for what each application should include, let's review the criteria that peer reviewers will use to evaluate and score each application. The selection criteria for the competition are described in the ANI. There are 3 overall selection criteria, and within each, sub-criteria that are scored individually. The 3 selection criteria are 1, significance, 2, quality of project design, and 3, quality of the management plan. As a reminder, the application narrative responds to the priorities and the selection criteria found in the ANI and should follow the order of the selection criteria. The maximum possible score for addressing all selection criteria is 110 points for national centers. Please note, this is the maximum score possible before applying any competitive preference points. The maximum score for each criterion is included in parentheses following the title of the specific selection criterion. Each criterion also includes the factors that reviewers will consider in determining the extent to which an applicant meets the criterion. The criteria are defined for each center. We will provide an abbreviated overview of the criteria here. For the complete definition of each criterion, please reference the ANI. The first selection criterion is significance. In determining the overall quality of the significance of the proposed project, the Secretary considers the following factors. 1. First, the extent to which the proposed project is likely to build local, state, regional, or national capacity to provide, improve, sustain, or expand training or services that address the needs of underserved populations. The maximum score for this subcriteria is 10 points. Next, the extent to which the resources, tools, and implementation lessons of the proposed project will be disseminated in ways the target population and local community that will enable them and others, including practitioners, researchers, education leaders, and partners, to implement similar strategies. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 10 points. Note, in responding to the selection criteria for factor A1 under significance, applicants are encouraged to define underserved population in the context of students identified for prioritization under the ETAA, namely those from low-income families and students attending schools implementing comprehensive support and improvement or targeted or additional targeted support and improvement activities under ESEA Section 1111B. The second selection criteria is quality of the project design of the proposed project. There are 5 subcriteria. The Secretary considers the following factors: the extent to which the goals, objectives, and outcomes to be achieved by the proposed project are currently specified, measurable, and ambitious yet achievable with the project period and aligned with the purposes of the grant program. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 10 points. The adequacy of plans for ensuring the use of quantitative and qualitative data, including meaningful community member and partner input, to inform continuous improvement in the operation of the proposed project. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 10 points. Next, the extent to which the training or professional development services to be provided by the proposed project are of sufficient quality, intensity, and duration to build recipient and project capacity in ways that lead to improvements in practicing among the recipients of those services. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 15 points. 4, the extent to which the proposed project will include coordination with other federal investments, as well as appropriate agencies and organizations providing similar services to the target population. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 15 points. 5, the quality of the logic model or other conceptual framework underlying the proposed project, including how inputs are related to outcomes. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 5 points. The maximum score for this criterion as a whole is 55 points. Third and final selection criterion is the quality of the management plan. There are 4 subcriteria. The subcriterion are: 1, the feasibility of the management plan to achieve project objectives and goals on time and within budget, including clearly defined responsibilities, timelines, and milestones for accomplishing project tasks. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 15 points. 2, the extent to which the time commitments of the project director and principal investigator and other key project personnel are appropriate and adequate to meet the objectives of the proposed project. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 5 points. Next, the extent to which the key personnel in the project, when hired, have the qualifications required for the proposed project, including formal training or work experience in fields related to the objectives of the project, and represent or have lived experiences of the target population. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 10 points. In responding to the selection criteria for factor C3 under Quality of Management Plan, applicants are encouraged to define the target population in the context of the universe of CC clients, i.e. SEAs, REAs, LEAs, and schools identified for support under the ETAA to be served by the applicant. And 4, the extent to which the budget is adequate to support the proposed project and the costs are reasonable in relation to the objectives, design, and potential significance of the proposed project. The maximum score for this subcriterion is 5 points. The maximum score for this criterion as a whole is 35 points.
On behalf of the U.S. Department of Education, thank you for participating in today's pre-application webinar for prospective applicants to the 2026 Comprehensive Centers Grant Program. For information about application instructions and submission procedures for all of the 2026 Comprehensive Center Grant competitions, please view the applicant resource webinar on the Comprehensive Centers Program website at ed.gov. In addition, for pre-application webinars for other 2026 grant competitions under this program, please visit the Comprehensive Centers website at ed.gov.